he and the Beatles defined the 60s for millions of people around the world. Was there a new concept behind the album you were working on with him?
The message for the 80s was to be optimistic, to work with the system, to help yourself, and not to hurt anyone else while you were helping yourself. And he was extremely optimistic about the future. I've never seen him in better spirits. I hadn't seen him for a few years. I saw him in LA when things were bad. But when I saw him, when we started this record, he was just in the best spirits he's ever been. He was a very happy man. He was fulfilled by his family. And Yoko was wonderful for him. Had taken care of his life. He was just feeling so well that he felt if he could come back from the depths that he was in the mid-70s, that anyone could, that not that he was a guru or he was going to show anyone the way, but he was just really up, and I think he was trying to point out to everyone how important your family is, because that was one of the things that really brought him up, was his son, both of his sons. In fact, one of the cuts on the album is called Cleanup Time, which is what he was trying to tell us. Set an example, that it was time to clean ourselves up. Clean up time. Yeah, clean up time. Clean up time.
Now, there are those people that I know who are older than I am, who felt that, like all figures in rock and roll, John Lennon was a cacophonous imbecile. But clearly, he was not a cacophonous imbecile. He was a remarkable man of extraordinary energy and intelligence. And he simply came from one of the toughest sections of the world, Liverpool, and invaded all of our lives in an original and, as I said a moment ago, irrevocable way. And that's why you find this outpouring. That's why you find that last night by 20 after 12, there were hundreds of people gathered at 72nd Street and Central Park West. A member of the family had been lost.
You say invaded our lives. That's an interesting word. It suggests a kind of an attack.
Not at all. One can invade in a tumultuous way, it seems to me, a benign way, without being aggressive.
But some people obviously felt attacked by the Beatle culture and everything that went with it.
And they still do. It was such a change, and obviously, legendarily, parents abhorred the whole process. Sexual promiscuity, people making love at an early age, mind-altering drugs, mescaline, acid, new terminology, new language, dropping acid. Do you have a joint bill?
Well, some of the people...
That's threatening when things change so drastically. And it's your children who are changing things right under your very nose in your own house.
But you don't have to like it, then. It may not be something that you necessarily approve of.
That's what I'm saying. Precisely that.
How about the rest of it, the dress and the things quite apart from the music?
Well, you know, at the beginning, the Beatles were rather neat. I remember seeing them at the beginning of their elaborate and wonderful career, thinking, well, those fellows are even neater than I am. And I had preceded them just a bit. I had just begun to grow my hair a little long. And I was kind of looking over my shoulder at people and around. I had my eye out for, well, was this okay? I had always felt in my high school years and early college years that I was uncomfortable in my suit and in my tie. And I thought I looked ludicrous in my short hair and my crew cut. I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel physically or emotionally comfortable with the way I looked. And suddenly, with the 60s and the eventual late 60s, I came to a very happy moment where I could dress and look the way I felt comfortable. And rock and roll figures helped that along. They kind of confirmed what I knew all along. Aha, this is going to happen someday.
John was a very conscious and self-conscious man who knew exactly what he was doing and yet had very profound intuitions and hunches he followed. But what happened to him finally was he sort of suffered some kind of obscure breakdown and wanted to go back and start all over again and be reborn, and literally was reborn, went into primal therapy and screamed and puled like an infant. And he married a very maternalistic woman. Then he underwent a sort of role reversal business, like Achilles at the spinning wheel, and for 5 years was a sort of male mother to his child, giving that child an experience that he felt he had been denied. And then finally, in his latest record, which is a big hit, he came back really very much to where he stopped recording with Abbey Lane in about 1970, in a very sophisticated, almost parodistic version of his original style. So that his career describes a complete circle or cycle. And I sometimes think that cycle represents the limits of the rock generation. It's a generation that simply could not grow up. They could complicate their adolescence to an extraordinary degree, but finally they hit sort of a bumper and bounced back to where they started, and then the only thing left was to do it all over again.
You knew Lennon personally. How much of this came out in the person that you knew?
Wonderful man to sit and talk to. One of the very rare celebrities, perhaps the only one I've ever interviewed in a lifetime in journalism, who you could ask anything to and get a very realistic and shrewd answer with no covering up, no copping out, no excuses, no sentimentalizing, no pieties. Just tell it the way it is.
A very tough kind of mind, then.
Very tough kind of mind, yet a very human and genuine person, someone who hadn't achieved toughness by killing his emotions.
When you look at the Beatles and Lennon, what did he bring to that?
He brought the muscle. He brought the brains. He brought the sort of street smart, tough, poor boy in Liverpool attitude. He also brought a lot of the verbal wit and dexterity and the humor and the sort of extravagantly American style. He loved America. He loved New York. His love for New York is what finally did him in, because he succumbed to one of the great New York delusions, that when you come to this city, you become an anonymous, invisible presence, and you can float around and do anything, and no one will go for you. It's a big mistake. It cost him his life.
Finally, that world got to him.
The illusion of being totally invisible in New York is one that draws people and enamors people like John of New York. But it isn't true. You're really in a little village in this town, and you're just as conspicuous as anywhere else, but you have to be a New Yorker to recognize that.
She told me, yes, you can walk on the street, you know. She says, you will be able to walk here, but I would be walking on tents like that, waiting for somebody to say something or jump on me and like that. And it took me 2 years to unwind, I can go right out this door now and go in a restaurant. You want to know how great that is?